welcome everybody to Book Club, to Tina Marie's place. She's currently out taking care of something, and it's myself, Tracy Glenn, the humble peasant of the Empire State, and Russ with What in the World is Russ. So I think first order on business should be what book are we going to do next? But that way we can pick whatever we want with no input from Tina.
Yeah, because she was wanting to do like
she wants a chick flick, and when she comes back, and we could say, "Oh no, we're going to do this."
We vetoed you.
Yeah, we made that decision, but you were not here.
Yeah.
I'm figuring another Star Wars, maybe a Star Wars book, or another science fiction or a fantasy novel.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm reading another book at the moment, off of Book Club, but I have my own list.
All right, Tina, we decided that the next book is a Star Wars book.
I don't think so. I quit.
We figured you weren't here to put your 2 cents in, so
come on. Yeah. On my channel too. It's last time I leave you two in charge.
I had an idea for a Christmas book.
A Christmas Carol?
No.
A Christmas Carol is short, though.
It is. That would be good. What was your idea?
Babes in Toyland.
Oh, I've heard of the movie. I haven't seen it. Is it about babes in Toyland? I'm going to stop now.
Wait a second. And I'm the one who takes it there? I'm the one who takes it there?
Look, you rubbed off on me, okay? I'm not taking it.
Why don't you just read the chat now, since, I'm the bad guy all the time.
Oh, gosh. All right, welcome in, guys. First, I want to thank the brain and Pinky down here. And
Pinky.
I'm Pinky. You're the brain. What are we going to do, brain?
We do every day. Okay,
Try to take over the world.
Try to take over the world.
Oh, this is a great time. I had to take care of something with one of my kids, so I do apologize. My husband just got home, and so he's got the calm now. So thank you guys so much for taking over that for me. Let's welcome in the chat. We have It's Joey's World, Lisa, Keith, and Joey. How you guys doing? Garrett, Monarch Moments. Where's Tina? This is her show. Yeah, I'm sorry. But I had some great stand-ins. So, I mean, they may not look like me, but they did great. So, it works. Let's see. Who else do we have? Tim Pruitt. Walt, Most Talk, good to see you. Dad Bill. Hey, Chris. How you doing?
Chris definitely got a sound plate of that Babes thing. You're totally done. I cannot believe you volunteered to go on Pete's Sunday night with a hot seat. You are so done.
For Father's Day too. So that's going to be interesting. Jason said to me last night, he said, I think I need to get you a lawyer. And I said, no, I have one. His name is Sal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, welcome in, guys. Normally I would thank Dean at the Live Place, but he doesn't host the show yet.
That's fine.
But I do want to give a shout out to theliveplace.com and dreamersempire.com. Go check them out. All your family-friendly YouTube streamers, all in one place. TV guide for your viewing pleasure. It's great. Dean does an amazing job. So, yeah. All right. So today we're going to talk iRobot. We're going to finish up the book, and then we are not going to pick Star Wars for the future book, but we will discuss what book we are going to pick.
I think you're just not liking my science fiction.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too.
Listen, I'm sorry to say, I thought it was a little bit different than what I probably would have picked a different science fiction book. Well, I like this book. I probably would have picked something different.
Honestly, I'm glad I could check it off my list. and it wasn't a bad book at all. So
yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it. It's been interesting. So
Right.
hold on. What?
We had oh, hold on.
I don't want a live studio audience.
Who wants to be your live studio audience? Jason?
Jason.
That's
Yeah.
because he's trying to hide from the kids.
Oh, he needs to take over and do that thing. So, Krista, can we go for? Oh, go ahead, Russ.
I was just gonna say, Chris wants to do a comic book because he likes
Yeah.
the pretty pictures.
They are nice. All right, guys. So the last 3 chapters we're gonna finish up. What do we think? What's the synopsis here? Let's get the rundown going.
Well, they're 3 very different chapters.
Yeah.
And
Completely.
3 very different stories,
Mhm.
but all very interesting. I mean, and they could probably be expanded on like their own sequel books. I mean, it's pretty interesting.
They brought back some of the characters from the earlier chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, I got very lost in these 3 chapters. The
last chapter got me. You know,
Really?
yeah.
Just a
Yeah, the
lot of
last-
information.
I told the group that be ready for quite a lot of psychology.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of dialogue too, which I get lost in.
It is a book. So.
I need. Well, I mean,
I know what you mean.
yeah. And of course, it's cloudy all day.
Yeah.
And now the sun's coming out, and we know at 3:00, the sun through my window that doesn't have a shade is gonna hit me in the face. It figures. All right. Yeah. A lot of dialogue. It is a book, but I get lost in dialogue. I like action.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there we go.
It's not too bad right now.
No.
Hopefully
No, that's.
because-
I mean, what was the next? Was the brain the next chapter that we went
Yeah,
to?
the first one or the first chapter is the escape, which is the brain and the spaceship.
Mm-hmm. Not the brain. That one. What's the word I want to use? I'm trying to. I just read this today, and my brain's forgetting now. Someone else talk because I'm losing it here.
What's that?
The what happened with the brain? Help me out.
All right. So the whole idea is what they took. Humans have come to a certain point, and they can't get the space travel. Right? They need to get past.
Hyperdrive.
They need to the hyperatomic drive because.
Yeah.
And I found just reading the books that I have for Asimov. You got to remember, it was the beginning of the atomic age.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't understand the atomics as much as we do today. Granted, atomic power is what, we have atomic power. They thought the atomic wave that was coming through was going to be the know all to end all. In War Asimov's writing, it just seems like he made it simple. They said, "Oh, we have atomic this, we have atomic this, we have atomic this."
Right.
So the whole idea is they couldn't get past that barrier to get it to travel outside of our solar system. The humans are stuck inside the solar system, and they're trying to get outside of the solar system and start colonizing other worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So they feed it to the brain, right? They feed it in certain queries, and it comes back with the solution and says, if you let me build it, which I'm assuming he just took autonomous drones and built a ship.
Right. Yeah.
And then they brought back the 2 guys who did the testing for all of U.S. robotics. It escapes. It pretty much tells them the escape is escaping the solar system. When I was reading it, I was thinking that the brain's going to download itself into the ship and escape. But
right.
Maybe too much horror in my own mind reading it, but it was interesting because they were brought this solution from a competing robotics company,
Mm-hmm.
which when they put the equation into their thinking machine, killed it. But
Right.
being that U.S. robotics is using a different type of
Positronic.
positronic brain, it actually equipped and handled the equation correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Well, it took Dr. Calvin to tell it to not worry about killing people
Correct.
in order to get the solution, because that was the main issue, was they couldn't figure out how to do it and not kill everybody that was on the ship.
Yeah.
So like they could build the ship, they just couldn't figure out how to do the drive to where it wouldn't kill everybody.
So here was my first confusion. How in the world did, and of course we have these two, I'm not even going to tell you what I've been calling them. These two guys here, Donovan and what's the other guy? Something or another. How did they end up on the ship?
They were ordered. They're the experimental people. They're the ones
right.
In the beginning of the book. Remember, these are the guys that went to Mercury. These are the guys who went to the asteroid. These are the guys who went to the space station. They have the U.S. Robotics has something new. They send in their two best guys.
They're like the test pilots or the test dummies.
Right.
Okay, so it wasn't an accident.
Well, it was an accident that they left when they did.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, they were just exploring the ship. And when they got on there, they didn't think the thing would work because there was like no controls and nothing in there. It was just like an empty type, ship with a bunch of little rooms.
Yeah.
And so they're thinking that it was a failure, that there's no engines and there's no way to actually get it to fly.
Yeah.
So
now,
then, yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. When these two were like that whole sequence when they're like, did we die or did I die or something like that? Like I thought the worst. I thought this was going to be the end, that the robots were out of control and they took over. I don't know what.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too. But I guess what they realized is that the robot will bring them to the brink of death and then bring them back. And pretty much, in other words, this is the farthest you can go on a jump without killing somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what was worked out. And then they moved on to recolonizing outside of the universe or outside of their solar system, which I guess, believe it or not, I mean, I actually, that big book that I had, there was 3 books before it that I actually read those too. After I got done reading iRobot, I was reading the chapters that I was supposed to. I read, it's called The Foundation, the Empire and the Foundation and Second Foundation. It's interesting because it looks like those 3 books that he wrote were millennia ahead of Earth's standard time to where the whole universe is, or this whole galaxy would have been inhabited and settled, and then a fall of an empire and how to bring it back to. And it's an interesting read. If you ever get back to that book series, it's 3 books. It's very long. It's very interesting because at least in one of the chapters I read was like, why is 1 year considered 365 days? Considering that's 365 days for us as a year. A year for Mercury or a year for Venus, a year for Mars is going to be totally different because it's 365 days takes us around the sun. And put us in space, that 365 days doesn't mean anything to someone traveling in space.
Right. Well, it's similar like Star Trek, where you've got like the star date.
Correct.
Because, you just go off of like Zulu time, like, they have now, with the military, to where you have that single time that everybody runs off of.
Right.
So.
Yeah, if we're going to get into time and time travel, that's where my brain goes.
Of course, Garrett has to bring up the leap year.
What about leap year? Yeah.
You guys see chat before I do.
Huh?
Right.
What about leap year? Okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
No, I thought it was cool. The ship, because like I said, they were, there was nothing in there at first until they get up into space, and then they start like thinking what they want, and then it like opens up in the walls, and like where's the food? Well, then this panel opens up, and there's cans of food, and
there's beans,
refrigerated stuff, and
they gave them beans and milk.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing with beans and milk, and they explain at the end why that is, because of the way the robot interpreted and made it so he wouldn't kill himself, basically. So because they explain the fact that the brain is a has a child's mind basically, and child's personality, and so in order to keep from actually killing anyone, he develops a sense of humor, and it becomes a practical joke that whoever's on the ship, they have to basically be uncomfortable or whatever, and to where it doesn't matter what happens to the humans. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain that, but yeah. So they had beans and milk to eat. That's all they could have.
Did it say how long they were there for?
And there were no showers. I don't think it really did. It didn't say like how long they were on the ship.
Yeah.
It did say like they went like 300,000 parsecs.
What
Right.
the heck is that?
Which I guess is a measurement for how far out you go.
I didn't bring the book with me today, so
yeah,
I don't know
it's like inches and yards and to us, feet, that kind of thing. Whereas in space terms, it's light years or parsecs, or that kind of, I don't know.
I think it's rounded off like 1,000 light years is 1 parsec.
Oh, yeah, something like that. I'm not sure, but it's a long way.
Okay. So basically, what happens is, what did they discover?
Well, that basically that it is possible to travel this way, but you basically, in order to do so, you basically you have to trust the robot to not kill you.
Ultimately, yes, that's the whole idea. Is in order to travel outside. Now you gotta, the way Isaac Asimov's iRobot's been going so far. The beginning of the most of the chapters that we have is the human fear of the robot.
Mm-hmm.
Here, in order to travel outside of our solar system, you have to trust the robot won't kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's breaking the prejudice of, in other words, do you want to go through? And there's still prejudice. It's just how far do you trust the robot species to take us outside of the world?
Mm-hmm. And if you're gonna get to the brink of death, is it worth the travel? Is it? Do you want to feel that way in order to, So.
I thought the next chapter was a much more interesting chapter.
Well, I was just going to say this is the chapter for Tina that we get into politics.
Right. I thought
yeah.
that the next chapter was a much more interesting chapter out of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's now all of a sudden you have someone running for mayor, and someone comes along and says, this guy's a robot. And you know what? I'm going to make the accusation, but you have to prove it to U.S. Robotics, because if it is true, then it makes you look bad.
Yeah.
So we have a candidate pretty much playing a private organization to do his dirty work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which turned around and worked against him in the long run.
Hey, Mike.
So
Gobble, Mike.
His name, why was his name so familiar? Was he one of the guys that worked at the company with Susan?
No.
It was totally different.
Okay.
No.
For some reason, I thought it was the same guy.
Stephen Byerly is the guy's name. And actually, Susan Calvin knows who he is. You learn that later on at the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
But no one else really did. Nobody really knows where he comes from. Nobody knows, the fact that.
Hey, Jeff.
Well, they mentioned the fact that they've never seen him eat.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the accusation. He never sleeps. He never eats.
Right. That's the basis of their accusation.
What? Yeah.
So, but yeah, they've got what's his name? Francis Quinn is the other politician against him. And he's a cutthroat politician. He's going to do anything and everything that he can to win. So this is the only way that he can come up with a way to beat him, because Byerly is such a
likable district
likable guy, and everybody wants to elect him.
Yeah.
So
was the robot built by Shep? Glenn wants to know.
Could be.
I wouldn't doubt it at this point.
Okay, so Tim Pruitt's putting in there 1 parsec.
He's
1 parsec
equals
1.917 times 10. Yeah, okay.
We're getting into astrophysics now.
Okie dokie. This is beyond my level of expertise. Yeah. Also, welcome in.
They bring in U.S. robotics to basically try to disprove the fact that he's a robot, and they bring Byerly in to interview him, and Byerly's like, "Well, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
like I'm not going to make myself a public spectacle. I'm gonna just play this out and play the."
And he eats an apple in front of him.
He does. He eats an apple in front of him. But then they even doubt that. Well, if he was this good of a robot, then they would program him and make him to where he could eat.
And that's where it lost me. That's just like, why the heck are they talking about this robot eating? And I was so confused. And of course, because I'm in crunch time where I have to get, a photo album out. So I'm listening to the book as I'm editing. So I'm getting bits and pieces. And the pieces that I'm tuning into, I'm sitting there going, wait, how do we get to this point? And I was so confused. So that makes sense now.
But yeah, like I said, he eats right in front of them, but then they still think that he's supposedly a perfect one. So
Susan Calvin and the other guy, the director, they don't want to be involved in this.
Right.
They're just trying to say, hey, listen, this is not our problem. But this guy is pulling them in saying, if you have a robot running if we can prove this guy is a robot, it just proves that U.S. robotics is playing against the laws of the world, saying that. So kind of backtrack a little bit. Go back to the brain and the escape. What happens is with the escape is it actually unifies the world.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now instead of having, okay, I don't know what made her laugh so hard.
I don't know. I think probably Glenn's comment about the Robin Williams book.
Right.
I don't know.
No, sorry. When you said the brain, my mind immediately went to Pinky, and then I was picturing Tracy as Pinky from Pinky.
Oh my!
Say Narf, Tracy.
Narf.
I love that show. There's a new nickname.
You do know that sooner or later there's going to be a Pinky on Monarch Moments with my face.
Yep. Well, Garrett even said Tracy equals Pinky.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry. I'm so sorry, but I'm not sorry.
I know you're not sorry at all.
Oh man.
Okay, I apologize, Russ. I'm so sorry.
No, no. Tracy was the one talking.
Oh, sorry, Tracy.
So it unifies the Earth, because once they start colonizing outside of Earth, the problem comes down to is anytime that you start colonization and you have to centralize your government. So it actually takes and puts the whole world into one government, and that's where this now supposed robot's running for mayor with a good destiny to take over, and what she ends up doing is becoming the coordinator of the world. He becomes the world leader.
Yeah.
And it's weird because you have this guy who's still trying to disprove him, even though U.S. robotics doesn't want to get involved, and is trying to tell this guy Quinn that, listen, this is not what we want to do. They send us the police in to do a search warrant, and they're trying to say that we have to search the candidate, and he was like, you have a warrant to search my property, and just because he's accused of being a robot doesn't mean that they can prove it or disprove it. And he's also using a shield, a suit shield, to make sure that nobody does.
So they can't X-ray him.
Correct.
Hey, Charlie, welcome in.
Yep.
Yeah. I had nothing to say. I don't know why I interrupted.
Glenn, you kind of missed that. We actually did that in the earlier of this stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they mentioned the fact that they could either try and search him and X-ray him and do all that physically, or they can test him to see if he breaks the 3 laws.
Correct.
And so, which is another thing that, well, if he's a good human being, then he would, most of those laws are based off of things that any good human being wouldn't do either, because no one would try and harm someone else or, that kind of a thing. So, you're still going to have the similar laws going on.
Right, because a good person would still just do that.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we also have another character that all we know is his name is John, and he's a cripple, and he's friends with Byerly, and Byerly's taking care of him.
So what was that scene about? All of a sudden, we're at the front steps, and there's a guy in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. How did that happen?
So they talk about at the beginning where Quinn's kind of telling like who Byerly is, and he talks about that his wife was killed in a car accident. There was a car accident within the family, and whoever the wife was killed, and then the man was severely injured and crippled. Well, they kind of assume that he's just a part of the family or a family friend of Byerly's, and later on, then they because Quinn can't figure out how to basically find the evidence that he is a robot, he starts saying that that John is actually Byerly, and then that the Byerly candidate is an actual robot. So he's been replaced by a robot. That Byerly, or that the real Byerly has created this robot somehow in order to replace him. Now, they never actually prove or disprove whether or not that's true by the end of the chapter, which is kind of interesting. So, he's changed his name. Oh, you've changed your name. Okay, that's nice. Oh, man.
Oh, gosh. We can never stay on track in these things. It's like, yeah. All right. So, let's see. So, Glenn says, for all I know, Tina may have done a backflip. Yeah.
Well, he missed the beginning of the show.
Yeah, but I'll give you a little, let you in a little secret. Tina doesn't do backflips, cartwheels or backflips. So, yeah. All right. So, what happens? Was it the end of this chapter? Pretty much.
No, that we're basically the biggest scene at the end is that Byerly decides that he's going to hold a press conference and state and basically just give a speech. Well, Quinn has put out so much rhetoric about the fact that he's a robot that everybody is doubting him, and so Byerly wants to go have a press conference to try and basically give a speech to say that no, I'm not a robot. Still, please elect me. Here's why. Because everybody's caught up on the robot thing, and nobody cares anything else about any of the other points of the election. So they have the big crowd. He's basically standing on a balcony, and his press secretary or his campaign manager even tells him, like, you're going to look like a dictator, like standing over everybody. And no, there's not a shark. Yeah.
He would ask that.
I know. But they end up, there's a guy that comes in the crowd who starts taunting Byerly and yelling at him. And so Byerly brings him up on the stage with him. Well, the guy basically says that, well, if you're a robot, you would not be able to hit me. And, because of the 3 laws.
Yeah.
And so but then Byerly does hit him and knocks him down. And so then, of course, everybody's like, oh, he's not a robot now. So they all turn back to his side. But then at the end, Susan Calvin comes to him and says, now, that's true that a robot could not hit a human, but what if the person you hit was also a robot?
Oh.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing. They leave it open at the end of the chapter that, he could actually be a robot. And we don't really know whether, they never answer it. And so that's kind of the interesting part, especially when it goes into the last chapter and the way that he is thinking.
So Glenn is asking the 3 laws. So why don't we refresh people's memories of what the 3 laws?
So the 3 laws, the first one is that a robot cannot do a human any harm. The second law is that a robot must follow an order given by a human.
Okay.
And the third law is that a robot is not, it must try to preserve himself. And so they stack those laws. The first law is the first law, and that's the first one that they have to go by first. Second law is the next one, and then the third one. So in those order, and so we learn all throughout the book that these 3 laws affect the way the robots are thinking. And it really comes down to, and really this is a good segue into the 3rd chapter, it's in the way that the data is inputted into the robots that is what affects their personalities or affects what they do, or that kind of a thing. So
oh gosh, Jeff says the laws are candy canes, candy corn, and syrup. Those are good laws. I have to agree.
And then Glenn says he needs me to figure out how to put 3 laws on Tracy.
Cool. Not cool, man. Not cool.
Pinky.
Yeah, or Pinky.
All right. So now we're in the 3rd chapter, right?
The last chapter, right?
Yeah, and I found this interesting. I enjoyed this chapter. I know it was a little bit difficult to get into, but again, I like the psychology type stuff and the overthinking of things, because that's what I do.
Yeah.
But this is all about kind of the politics of or the economics of the world, and the fact that the world is now controlled by it's split up into different regions, and they visit each region within the world because Byerly is trying to investigate. So the robots are in charge of production all over the world. They're the ones that do all the work. They do all the production. They make sure that all the needs are met for all the humans.
So they're back on Earth?
Yes, they're on Earth.
They're now allowed on Earth.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, they are all on Earth. And like I say, each region has a brain that is running their region. So the problem that Byerly sees is that there is all of this production, but then at some spots around the world, they're shutting plants down, or things are not quite the numbers aren't matching up. And so he's going out to try and investigate. Well, he calls in Susan Calvin to ask the question, basically as to why this would happen, because supposedly the robots are supposed to be perfect, and we're not supposed to have these mistakes. We're not supposed to be shutting plants down, and people aren't supposed to be losing their jobs, and that's part of supposedly it's all supposed to be working perfect.
Yeah.
So he visits each region, and I liked this. They had
What are we gonna do tomorrow, Brain?
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
man. I like each character at each region. I think each coordinator was
Right.
very interesting.
Snarf. Oh, it's been a long time since I watched Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, I love it.
Mhm.
I love it.
I was actually trying to do that while I got my phone call.
Oh, okay.
I had a feeling that's what you were trying to do. That
Then I
time.
had a phone call about the firehouse stuff. So
Well, one of the things that I thought was very interesting about this too was that Byerly is thinking somewhat like a robot. So I was still questioning, okay, is this guy really a robot? Because again, they don't tell you.
they don't tell you, but Susan Calvin does.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did I lose you?
No.
Okay. I found it interesting the breakup of the hemispheres or the breakup of the zones.
Yeah, it's not like a traditional.
Yeah.
Well, considering that they went with a northern, tropic, eastern. Was it eastern?
Yeah, Eastern and
Eastern, tropic, northern, and I think they
European.
European. So pretty much Europe, which is a small little segment of the world, got its own zone because I guess Europeans really needed to come together, and pretty much you can't control that many people of different. Well, I'm joking, but still, I mean the tropics. I mean, it looks like the tropics range from like the Middle East all the way over to Central America.
Well, it's basically like all of the equator.
Right, and anything below the equator, which looks like that's what ended up being a tropic. But the northern zone picked up Australia.
Yeah.
Which was weird.
Well, the northern regions was like all of the superpowers.
Correct.
That's basically what they were.
Considering what back in the time after World War II, it was the superpowers. It was Russia or the USSR and the United States as one zone. It picked up Australia somehow.
And then Europe, it was like the sad retirement community of the world. It's like they kind of explained the fact that Europe, we've had all this conflict all throughout the world. Now there's no conflict. So what are they supposed to do in Europe? And so that was kind of
good just to make her laugh.
Yeah. And then of course the Eastern was like the Asian areas was the
Asian,
China,
Indonesia, China, Japan,
India,
right?
All those type areas.
Am I the only one during this whole thing is thinking of the Hunger Games with the districts?
It kind of is. I mean, it kind of.
Yeah.
They have their things that they are in charge of, and depending on what district you're in, that's basically how you live. And if you don't belong to one of those districts, well then you're underneath. Because they even rank the fact that the northern region is the world leaders. They're the ones that are in charge of basically making policy for the world and rule over, because they're also the ones that are they're the ones that make the robots, and control the robots. The southern region or the tropics region, they're thriving because they have all the resources,
correct?
Because they're tapping into the rainforests and all. This was before they even state that we've got all this untouched land that no one's ever used before, and so we've got all the resources. I thought it was funny too that they're building the Panama Canal, which was happening at that time.
They called it the Mexico Canal.
Yeah, the Mexico Canal, and then the Eastern region was in charge of basically making food.
Right, but not even making food, but making what did they call it? It was
like the chemicals of it. The yeast is what they were.
In other words, all food boiled down to yeast. So in other words, all food was plant-based at this point in time.
Although, except for in the tropics region where they already had all those resources, they didn't need that food.
Right.
But everywhere else, they used the process.
I found that the population numbers that they gave at the beginning of each subchapter was like, okay, this is what they projected in 1950, what this population is, and believe me, the population is much higher today than what they assumed it would be.
Yeah. It's funny how things turn out. Not like we think it's going to.
Well, according to Back to the Future, we should have had flying cars by now.
That's true.
I know. I'm still waiting for those.
Which they have in this book. So.
Yeah, time machine.
Yeah.
So the thing that I found interesting was that.
What's up, Carlos?
Hey, Carlos. The way that each region also depended on their brain.
Correct. So did we get into the fact, because I know I was missing, the brain actually, because you have this subsection or this anti-robotic or anti-machine, faction that's out there.
Right.
The brain, these machines, these brains of these hemispheres or these zones pretty much figures out who they are. And that's the reason why they did what they did.
Yeah,
they pretty much forced these people that were against the machines out of their positions because either they were falling behind. They knew that there was a reason why. Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of this book, or at the end of this chapter, you have it pretty much that humanity has given over the idea of, I mean, granted, they've given over the free will to the machines because the machines are pretty much making sure that everybody is fed, everybody is happy, pretty much as they can possibly be, as long as they go along with the program. Which reminds me of the Matrix. I mean, if you remember watching the first Matrix movie, they say that the first Matrix was a ideal, perfect environment, and the human brain had nothing to do with it because the human brain wants strife, it wants hardship, it doesn't want to be 100%. It wants to be happy, but it can't handle being 100% happy all the time.
Right. Well, it's happiness according to the machines. It's not necessarily happiness according to that individual. Yeah. And so we had it's the Society of Humanity is the name of the group, which actually they're coming out of the northern region as well.
Right, because again, this is, again, I think you have to look at it in the time and the age that this was written. I mean, Asimov was so far ahead of his thinking, but he was still limited to what was going on in the world of that day. Atomic energy was just coming into. I mean, once they dropped the bomb, they opened up the atomic door. I don't think atomic power was being used at this point in time. They were still using coal and oil for almost all of their product, for all their power. So here you have Asimov assuming that atomic energy was going to be like the safest and biggest thing in the world, and population wasn't going to grow as much as it is, and we would advance so far in humanity. But then again, he also includes the prejudice of his age in this book, and instead of taking it out and putting it against a race, he put it against a machine.
Right. Yeah. Well, Byerly even says at the end, he tells Calvin, it's like, well, I'm just going to outlaw the Society for Humanity, and we'll arrest them and we'll get rid of them, and it's like, well, you can't do that because that's just, humans being humans, and the machines they understand, because there's even a line that I wrote down that the fact that it won't work, that will not work because the machines account for disobedience. And that word disobedience stood out to me because it's like, well, the machines are the ones that are in control.
Absolutely.
Humans have nothing to do with it. So they have accounted for the disobedience of humans. Mm-hmm. They have accounted for the fact that humans have their own thinking process and can change the variables and what they need to get done to continue the world. And the only reason that they are doing that is because of the three laws. They have to keep humans from being harmed, and so they have to keep humanity alive. But they can still do their own stuff. They can still do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So it was very, very interesting to me, the fact that it kind of ended to the fact that, okay, well, yeah, the robots are in control. It's, the machines are in charge, and humanity.
Which actually, like if you look at like Terminator 2 or
Mhm.
Terminator series or the Matrix, it's always been the machine's been the evil enemy that's in charge. Technically, this one here, they cohabitated. The humans just freely gave up. So getting into it, I think in Nerd Talk, we talked about at least one race of planets that gave over all of their free will to a cybernetic organism, which was the Kree.
Mhm.
If you look back at it in the Marvel universe, the Kree gave over their supreme intelligence as a computer. Basically, iRobot in Marvel, because that's exactly what happened there.
Yeah.
It just amazes me how Asimov wrote this in 1950s and how much it bled into the society, and not real society, but fiction and science fiction throughout all of the rest of the world, or throughout timelines. I mean, everybody's borrowing from this. I mean, you look at it, it's nothing's really new.
I'm playing a video game right now. It's Fallout 4, and basically, it's after the atomic bomb is dropped, the world is destroyed. Basically, people are still now coming out of they were hidden away. Some are radiation burned. Some are affected in different ways by the bomb. But there's one group who has built synthetic robots and synthetic people, and they're sending them out, and they infiltrate humanity to gather resources. Well, of course, humanity has discovered that this is going on, and people are disappearing and then coming back as a robot, being replaced. And so there's this constant fight, and you have to choose sides in the game as to whether or not you're going to choose sides with the robot or the humans. And it's very interesting, and that kind of a thing. So it's been interesting as to read this book while I'm playing the game.
Right. I mean,
those parallels.
It's just weird with science fiction from then when it was written. And it's like I said, I did the research. It was like the golden age of science fiction to where it is today. I mean, you talk Asimov in that first books the other books that I was reading, it was talking about a full world empire or a full world city. This is what comes up in Star Wars. In iRobot, at the end of iRobot, we have machines running the world. This is what we have in Marvel with the Kree. Granted, they probably don't realize where they're taking it from, but it's these storylines are out there, just different spins.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is kind of the birthplace of it as to robotics and the science fiction of robots. So it is very interesting. So yeah, Glenn, that's what I'm talking about was Fallout 4. That's what I'm playing right now.
We're about 10 minutes in. I think we kind of wrapped up the book. What book do you want to read, Teen?
You know what? I'm going. I want to go with a chick flick. Maybe we can talk off stream. I don't know.
Okay.
But
I was just trying to say, if we're going to pick a book, are we going to wait like 2 or 3 weeks? Should we pick a Christmas book and do a Christmas book club, then wrap it up in a short one?
I like that idea, actually.
I mean, I have a book in mind, but then again, I picked the last book, so.
Okay, well, what's your book?
Anybody ever read Skipping Christmas by John Grisham?
No. Is it a short book?
It's somewhat of a short book, yes. If you've ever watched the movie Christmas with the Cranks with Tim Allen and what's her face there? Whatever. Skipping Christmas was a book by John Grisham. It was a Christmas book, and it's a very small one. And it's actually what happens if you watch Christmas in the Crank movie. It's pretty much the same premise. And it's a guy who decides his daughter's going away to the Peace Corps. I'm not going to spend all my money on Christmas decorating, Christmas party, Christmas cards. We're just going to skip it all together. We're going to go on a cruise, and that's what we're doing for Christmas. So that would be my choice. If you guys want to choose another, if we want to,
now we don't have to read the book,
huh?
Yeah.
If you want to choose another Christmas book, I'm fine with that too. I mean, I'm 100% with what's down with it. That's
I'm fine
I think
with
we should
whatever.
look at a Christmas book.
Yeah, I think so too. It doesn't matter to me which one. Just I'm not decisive, so.
You're not a chick flick. It's not a chick flick. So you want to maybe find a chick flick book?
No.
Book.
I mean, I wanted a Christmas Carol. Russ wanted Babes in Toyland. So
then let's do a Christmas Carol.
Well, Christmas Carol's fine too.
I'm down with a Christmas
so
Carol.
is Babes in Toyland. That's fine.
But there's a lot of babes in Toyland.
Well, I'm gonna read that anyway because it's on my list. It's on my book list. That's why.
Well, is it? Here's the question: is it a short book? Because Christmas Story.
I don't
is
know.
A short
I've not
book.
looked at it.
Or Christmas Carol, I mean.
I think we go with a Christmas Carol because it's a short book. We're going to probably take a week off of book club so everybody can get on. And next week's Thanksgiving, so it would be like 4 weeks before Christmas, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think maybe 5.
This is you. I mean, I know I'm involved with book club. I didn't come up with book club. Don't let me run your book club.
Okay. This is your book club too. There's 7 of you watching. What do you think we should read next? Babes in Toyland, A Christmas Story, or?
No, we're not doing Skip at Christmas. I already picked I picked the last book, so my book's out.
Okay. And Babes in Toyland might be too long. All right, so I guess it has to be a Christmas Carol then. Okay, so we're gonna do a Christmas Carol. Are they singing?
Jeff chooses Where's Waldo.
Are the Babes in Toyland singing Mele Kalikimaka?
We still need to read Babes. I mean, like I said, I'm still going to read Babes in Toyland because it's on my reading list.
I think doing a Christmas Carol would be a good idea. It's I mean, we've done classic books so far.
Yeah.
And even though Babes in Toyland's a classic book, that we're going all the way back to Victorian era with Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
Christmas Carol's fine with me.
Okay. All right. So not next week, but
it would be the
first. So we'll do the week. We'll start on the 1st, and the 1st at 3:00 on Tuesday. All right. What do you guys have coming up?
Book. I don't have a book.
I'm not even gonna go there. Russ, what do you have coming up?
So late last night, I dropped a video of my Christmas stroll that I did, or Christmas tree stroll at Disney Springs. Just a real short video, really fun. And then actually, when I get off here, I'm gonna work on my Hollywood Studios video this evening, and try and get it out by tomorrow. But we'll see. Depends on how long it'll take me to edit because it's a I've got a lot of footage, and I may actually split it up into parts. Other than that, on Saturday at 3:00, we're going to be having a birthday party for Mickey Mouse, and going to have a lot of fun and just come together and kind of talk about our favorite memories of Mickey Mouse and play some games and just kind of hang out as a group. And then Sunday is Nerd Talk on Diz Our Dreams channel, as far as we know, as we're thinking. For the next episode of Mandalorian. So
sweet. Trace, how about you?
Well, I'm going to. Brain says we're taking over the world.
Oh my gosh.
Just Thursday. Thursday, not wasting time. Nerd Talk on Sunday. Probably popping in on Russ and. Probably
pizza.
seeing my picture on a Pinky face somewhere.
And pizza. Don't forget pizza.
Oh, we got Pizza Stream. Pizza Stream on Friday.
Yeah. Oh, and I just forgot too. Tomorrow, I'm going back to Disney with Dawn of the Hitchhiking Bones.
Sweet.
And who I think actually is live at Magic Kingdom at the moment. And we might be doing a live stream there. So keep an eye out too, either on my channel or her channel. So we'll be going live, and I think we're gonna do the boardwalk and the Skyliner again, like I did last time I streamed. So, but this will be her first time ever riding the Skyliner. So
nice,
sweet.
So tomorrow, so I'm not streaming right after this. Carlos is on in 3 minutes. I am on tomorrow, 5 p.m., and we're going to be doing mystery ornament tree. I'm going to unpackage some Hallmark mystery ornaments. And then next week, no book club. But then next Wednesday, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But then at 7 o'clock on Pete McDevitt's channel, I will be on with him. So that's next Wednesday at 7. It's not Off the Wall. That's just his Wednesday show.
Yeah.
But I did book an Off the Wall with him for June of next year. So I'm excited. Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Yeah.
I will be on his show as well.
When are you gonna be on?
Shenanigans. I can't do this guy's voice.
When's your date, Russ?
I have to watch this over again just so I can get his voice down.
To do a viewing party. But yeah. So all right, guys, go pop over to Carlos and show him some love, and have a great night. I will see you tomorrow.
Sure.
Stay cool.